part of a podcast, the most that I do in an episode is either 3 other or 4 other bands. We're going to talk a little bit to get to your fan base and for people from other bands that haven't heard you, to let them know not just about Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad, but about the Heron, about why everybody would play the Heron. And in your case, we'll get to it in the interview. I happen to know we are one of only a few that you're doing in this hiatus. So
yeah, for sure.
Which is really, really, I love that. It's important. So
The Heron's important to us. So I mean, it's kind of the only place we want to be, and we don't want to not be there. So we're honored anytime that we get asked. We're gonna come. You know.
And that's a great opening because, folks, I'm talking with a member of Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad. Are you one of the founding members? You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. My name is James. I was part of founding the group in 2001, along with brothers Matt and Chris O'Brien and Dylan Savage. And me, Chris, and Dylan have been in the band the whole time, and Matt will also be joining us for this show at the Heron, because it's, we kind of just, the idea of having it be called a dub squad was that we come from this great community of musicians and thinkers and people and friends, and we always wanted to be able to kind of pull on any of those people wherever their lives were, whatever was happening. For various reasons, people have kind of been able to be there and not been able to be there, and it's been nice to have Matt, who's going to be there with his group Flying Object, which is like, again, not an extension of the band, but definitely like in our universe of players and musicians that we've just known for years. And a lot of them are going to be at the Heron. The Medicinals are going to be there. Flying Object's going to be there. We're going to be there. Some friends that we made who are from Democratic Republic of Congo are going to be there, called Sawa Sawa Band. And, amongst all the other great groups that, we've become friends with along the years. So it'd be nice to kind of see who ends up getting up on the stage. I know we'll have a good crew of folks. So
I know you will. And I'm familiar with your sound, James.
Thank you.
But as opposed to me describing it as a listener,
sure,
tell people about your sound from a musician standpoint. Tell people who haven't heard you before. What's the sound of Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad?
Well, the sound is definitely coming from a live roots reggae aesthetic. But the reason why it's roots reggae and we're from Western New York is because we got introduced to kind of reggae as a style of music while we were growing up in Rochester, because there was a lot of local bands that kind of had borrowed that sound directly from Jamaicans. And we just felt that if you're going to be playing through a sound system, there's kind of no better way to present it. But we're songwriters. We love folk music. We love the spirit of the Grateful Dead. We love grunge and punk rock and, all these powerful songs, that we were raised with. And I think there's something to be said where, like, when those two things are married, like the power of the song and the power to improvise with a large audience or even a large group of people on stage, kind of makes this very perfect middle ground of familiarity and honoring things that are special, but then like opening things up to like, this is the present moment, this is what is happening exactly right now, and making the songs different a little bit each time, or having them open to their flavor. So it is traditional musicianship of guitars, basses, drum sets, organs, singing, percussion, so usual live band stuff, playing written songs that are available to kind of go anywhere. And like the bands that we love, whether it's like James Brown or the Grateful Dead, we like songs to transition into each other as much as possible and kind of just be a big experience from start to finish. So I hope that sort of describes the sound. I know there's some sort of philosophical things thrown in there, but in general, it's just a great live experience. And the thing that we find the most is that we meet in the music with everybody. So it's almost like all of ourselves are kind of culminating this in the air between the audience and the band and the music, and that is our favorite place to hang out. I feel like it sounds like that. It's kind of a hard thing to describe, but that to
It
me is what the sound is.
it does. It sounds like that. I will tell you that, because when you're on stage, there's not a big separation between you and the audience. Energetically, and the vibe is, it's one big organism. And I can say that as somebody who, and
Thank you.
like we talked about in the part I edited out at the beginning, I'm always around the fringes. I hear everything.
Yes,
So I get to not only hear it, but I get to see the macro picture. So,
that's awesome.
and I look at it from the standpoint of somebody who, I really got introduced to music in the 60s and 70s. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, obviously I'm not 29 years old,
Uh-huh.
but there were absolutely no boundaries. You would walk into the record store, and Bob Marley would be stacked up in an album next to the Grateful Dead, next to Aerosmith, next to John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, next to,
Exciting.
you name it, it was there, next to Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Right.
So, that there were no boundaries in music back then, and there wasn't the, here we go on the subject we talked about, the AI generated categories. This only
Yeah.
fits in this category, or only in this category. Music is music, man. And
Yep.
and the separation sucks. It's like,
I've always thought there's two kinds of music. There's good music and there's bad music, and the
that's
eye
it.
beauty is in the ear of the beholder. But it was one time we came out with an album, and it got reviewed in Germany, and I can, I studied German in school, so I knew enough to like be able to read the article. And the thing that I was getting from the article was that they were kind of annoyed that we couldn't like pick a genre. They were like, it's not totally ska, it's not totally dub, it's not totally this. And it was like, yeah, that's like, I think a good thing. Like that's, we're like, we wear our inspirations on our sleeve because it's all, it all means something to us. And we don't think about it like that. I don't think that like Dylan is like, I'm going to write a ska song, or I'm going to write this rock steady feel. It's like, you write the song that you write, you give it, any song can have any feel to it. It can be part of any genre. You can, and reggae taught us that, reggae, it famously will take any song that's popular around the world and make it reggae style. Of course, Zydeco does that too. You see, lots of people do it, but
I,
those,
I lived in New Orleans a long time, so I know Zydeco
yeah,
Agent very well. People,
when you see
people
Keith
think I
Frank or
don't just,
anything like that,
yeah.
and they're pulling out, the Rolling Stone songs, and all those songs that have been popular over the year. It's like, yeah, let's keep doing the same dance, but like to this tune. And so yeah, good music, bad music, and I think what the time that you're referring to is, even though I wasn't alive during that time, I was kind of alive on the tail end of that. Like, and it was just always so exciting to go into a music store and see all the possibilities of where it could go. And there was no, you didn't have to stay in this section or that section. It was all there. So
It was just there. I mean, and you were talking about crossing over, and we can talk about that with any style of music. I mean,
right.
I'm in high school, and I got my choice between Led Zeppelin, the Who, and Steve Earle comes along and goes, by the way, I'm not country, but they're going to put it in this category, and blew everybody away. Steve
Yeah.
Earle was one of the first ones to cross over in
Yeah.
anything and everything, and I've told people that. And two of my favorite bands today, two of my favorite national touring acts today, kind of gives things away for people, because I think Lucero out of Memphis is one of the best live bands I've ever
Okay.
heard. Yeah, I went straight from punk into, and then I saw them on tour. They had a whole horn section with them and had fleshed
That's
out
what's up.
all the songs. And Jason Isbell in the 400 unit. And again, that gets categorized as country, and you'll know what I'm talking about. All I have to do is play the final song from Live at the Ryman 2. This is it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
tell me that's not the Allman Brothers right there.
Exactly. Kind of, they all got, and again, I think there's like, I don't know what psychedelia like has to do with how that stuff all crosses over, or if it's the time period, but it's just the less I know about the specifics, usually the better. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is just, I love this, and I love what's going on with this sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some specifics I get into. I was that kid in the record store. I read the back of every album and every liner sleeve completely. I could tell you the studio it was recorded in, who the producer was, who the session players were. If you really want to blow people's minds, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Talk to them about the Wrecking Crew, and say, yeah, do you know how many times you heard this band?
Right,
how
exactly.
many different genres?
Right. And Jamaica has, like, again, their own wrecking crews, and that was one of the big revelations.
Sly and
Sly and
Sly.
Robbie and
Yeah.
Family Man and Carlton Barrett, and lots of people,
Yeah.
Mooch Radix, and just, but it's like there's a reason kind of why you find that in those periods of time. It's like this is where the records were getting made, and you had these creative people just kind of there, primed and ready to go to create.
They showed
And
up to make music,
yeah, exactly. And
we were talking about reading, and I tell people,
yeah,
read up because you don't understand. Willie Nelson and Carole King were Tin Pan Alley songwriters, and they have no
right,
idea what Tin Pan Alley was.
right,
Guys, all the pop music you heard in the 40s and 50s came from the minds of Carole King, Willie Nelson.
right. That's crazy. Yeah, that's so crazy.
This whole list,
They were deep in on it.
Yeah,
Johnny Nash, I always think about, because
yeah,
he sang "I Can See Clearly Now,"
yeah.
but Bob Marley was in the studio with him, right,
Was
as a songwriter to help him write that, and like when you look back at it, you're like, oh yeah, I could hear that. Like Bob would have been singing that song. He was helping write those songs with Johnny Nash, and that album is like almost
yeah.
a full reggae album when you look at it. It kind of came out before Bob went international. But I also like, I could read the backs of records forever.
Oh God, yes.
If I like it, I would rather have the information be there than not, and you can really like dive deep and it's really an interesting time traveling kind of machine, because the music sounds the same way that it did right when they put it to wax when it was
Yeah.
made, and we're still there in the room with everybody. I've been doing music therapy. I've been getting my graduate degree in music therapy, and been able to spend some time with some great people who like are recipients of music therapy, and we'll be listening to someone, like Michael Jackson's like a good example, and they'll be like, oh yeah, but he died, and you're like, yeah, but like we just listen. We were just like here with him. Like, we're like hanging out with Michael Jackson in 1984, and he's, he's
Well,
doing this music right here.
I didn't tell you where I grew up, and it was Kalamazoo, Michigan, exactly halfway in between Chicago and Detroit.
Oh yeah,
Gary,
Bell's
Indiana,
Brewery.
that far. Yeah, Bell's
Yeah.
Brewery.
I'm in South Bend right now. So I live in South Bend, Indiana.
You live in South Bend. Okay. Then you know right where Kalamazoo is.
I was there weeks ago. Yeah.
Yep. At Bell's. Okay. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I love that whole, I mean, the whole area is really interesting to like you were just saying, like from Chicago to Detroit and everything in between. There was like a lot of music happening, and a lot of just like,
well, there was a reason for that. The original Gibson Guitar Factory was in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That's right.
We were exactly halfway between Chicago and Detroit. So everybody traveled by bus.
Right.
So here it is, little Kalamazoo, Michigan in the 70s was getting Bruce Springsteen, Aerosmith, anybody. We were getting Chicago blues. We were also getting out of Detroit, we were getting Detroit Motown R&B and Detroit rock. And you were getting Chicago jazz and Chicago blues. It was an amazing little city to grow up in.
That must have been awesome, man. I think about that, like what that was like. That's really. It must have been exciting and kind of, yeah, like you're saying, it's like a melting pot of sound, like right there in the middle.
So let's talk about the Heron. People know me, and I could talk about it all day. And let's go back to something I said we were going to talk about. Let's talk about the fact that this is one of the only dates that you're playing this year. Okay. And let's talk about why you're doing it. What is it about the Heron that brings you to say, we're coming back together for this one?
I know that, the earth moves in an ellipse. We come back to where we start, or we're going to where we're starting from. It's not a line, and I know that every summer there's going to be things that we want to do all together, and we're gonna want to be in the best place with our best people doing the best things, and that's really hard to organize on our own at the level that we would all want it to be had at. Thousands of people and delicious food and a cool place to be, with great music going on all day and night. So the Heron specifically, there's a couple different directions you can go if you want to make that kind of a time happen. And we know that Blue Heron Fest, they do it in the way that we feel we're going to have the most meaningful experience spending our time and telling people to come join us for a night in the summer like that. And every summer we know that we're going to want to do this stuff. So if a festival, not too many of them that we would say yes to no matter what, and Heron is one of them, because it just, the atmosphere and the culture that is created, it goes outside of like time, and that's not out of time and space, but it's this ritualistic thing that like a festival and people gathering in the forest to be a part of music and togetherness has been happening for thousands of years. And if you go to the large, I'm just going to say corporate, like I don't know if that's a great description for them, but if you go to the Bonnaroos or like the big, huge jam band festivals or rock festivals, there, that you can just kind of feel the greed and the trash and the just that this was set up kind of to host a bunch of businesses for a weekend and not also to like I want more of the emphasis to be like this is created for people to have an experience that is bigger than them. And Heron does that. They put more emphasis into how is this going to actually feel for the community that is going to be here, and how can we make this a place that feels like you've returned to a liminal home, like for a while. This is a special sacred space that we are returning to. If you go to uh the farm there on a time that the festival is not going on, sure, it's beautiful grounds, but you're not going to have anywhere near the type of experience that you're going to have when the music and the people and the food and the vibes all come together as like almost a formula, like a chemical formula.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
very much. And
Well, I want to just continue a little bit of just saying
yeah,
that like it's hard to know with
please.
festivals like this how much of that is intentional and how much of it is like the intention was put there, but then like what ended up happening is kind of left up to everybody. And when that can happen, a lot of times, Giant Panda, we will try to have an event and we will have a lot of good intentions for things to go a certain way, but it doesn't always happen. It doesn't always go that way. Uh, I think there's something to be said for the event that happens year after year where it just keeps happening. I don't know how y'all arrange it to make it feel that way every year. I think that the woods is set up beautifully. It is really a magical space that when you walk around, you can wander and not get lost, and find your way back to your people or wherever you need to be. And again, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just kind of fascinated at
No,
like
you keep going. Just keep going, James. Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the festival because I can't tell if like what happens is just like kind of a magical culmination that happens, or if this is kind of precisely set up to do this, and who's the mad genius behind it, and how are their calculations so on point and correct. I just, not that I don't have faith in people, but just it seems like there's a little bit extra that happens, and that's special. So keep that happening.
It takes a group. It takes a group of us to do that. It's not any one person, but it's the right combination of people, personalities, and vision, and effort and work. It's a lot of work beforehand on our part, but to make that all happen. And thank you. Those are some very high compliments. And you just gave me a phrase that you said it and it struck me. Liminal home.
Yeah, it's liminal home. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really profound.
Hard to find those.
Yeah, it
Hard to
is.
find those, and everybody's looking for it. And we all want the magic, we all want it, and we know it's possible.
Well, we talked about being human before, this
Right.
interview rolled, and what we need as human beings is connection and community.
Absolutely.
We don't need more technology. We
We do
don't.
not.
We
Do
need
not.
more connection and community and more understanding that the same blood courses through everybody's veins, and we all
Right.
have the same hopes to get through life with. And you do that by connecting with other people, by forming community. And that's what keeps me putting the work in that I put in and showing back up there, is the community that forms, and I get to be there. How often I'm there. They're pretty much, spring through fall. But in terms of the Great Blue Heron Music Festival, my butt gets planted there, right about now, about Memorial Day, and we start working in that community. It's the same group of us that come together,
We're
and
so grateful for the work that you put in, because it really it does something. It shows, it happens. You make it happen every year, and to have it be annual is really important too, I think. This isn't one time you went here and this thing happened. It's like we're growing every year. We're making those relationships deeper every year. You're watching the kids grow. You're watching the kids start to go and have that experience, and then they make kids, all that. It's just like, the circle of life, if you want to have it. But it's just like we don't live in a society that tracks the cycles of that in a way that is meaningful to a lot of people. And I think that this is
yeah,
a community that does that. So
I had something really meaningful happen last week. I walked into a coffee shop. This is the time of year when I've always got a stack of cards in my pocket. And the woman behind the register looked at me and said, "I know you." And I happened to have, and I had pulled my cards out to give somebody a Great Blue Heron Music Festival card. And she looked and she went, "Yes, I know you. I've grown up there. My parents started taking me there when I was a kid," and literally grabbed a stack of cards out of my hand and walked out from behind the register, started talking to everybody in the shop. "You need to come to this. I grew up here. You need to come to this."
That's awesome.
And somebody who started out as a kid there and has now become a young adult says that's extraordinarily gratifying to go, we're doing the right thing,
Yeah, they've passed through all the gates of wanting to maybe resist what their parents showed them, and they come around. I've met so many kids that have done that, and I bring my kids to these festivals too, and they won't let me not bring them. Now, and they're young too.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people that you're describing, like they're older now, they're adults. I say, yeah, what was it like when your parents brought you that? They're like, I always had a good time. I always wanted to come. I never felt weird about anything. I felt like I could be myself, and all these same things that I feel going. So it just was nice to hear from all from all the layers of the generations that could go, that we're all feeling the same thing. We're all having a good time. We feel safe.
Yep. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The position in there. And I really appreciate it when kids feel safe a lot.
Absolutely.
I got that from Jim Donovan's kids one time, believe it or not, because he always brought his kids and they grew up there.
Yeah.
And there was a person, and this was during another retreat, but Jim Donovan and his kids were there. And there was a person having a medical issue. He actually was beginning to have a stroke.
Yeah.
And Tupelo, his daughter, literally zoomed through the tent, found me and said, "Kip, come with me. There's somebody in trouble." Dad always said, "Find you."
Wow.
If you see somebody in trouble. And we were able to help the person and get the right medical help there in time, because a kid had grown up saying, "Go find him. Go find him right now." And that was extraordinarily gratifying to know that somebody brought their kids there, said, and it's not about me personally, it's about go find a member of the staff.
Right.
Go find this person because they'll help you.
And it was true. It wasn't a letdown.
No.
They didn't go to you and you didn't say, "I don't know what to do." You weren't a new hire or anything like that. You were, it was good advice. And that's the kind of consistency that we're all looking for, as people that we can, actually trust, and also like not feel judged, and just have everything be in the right priorities.
What humanity needs right now is that. And again, we're talking about a 4-day festival that it's not just me talking who works there, but you're somebody who performs there. That we do that for humanity, that we do that
Absolutely.
for people. Yeah.
And it resonates, and that's what it's all about. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like it resonates back out into the world. And I think that again, I've been doing this and going to I've been to a lot of different events as a musician, and almost none of them are like Blue Heron. And I want them all to be like Blue Heron, and it's frustrating when they're not. Um, and uh, I think that I don't. It doesn't get. It's not lost on me. I don't forget about it. I don't take it for granted. But it really makes sense when you bring a new person there, and they finally say, "Oh my goodness! Like I've never been to anything like this. I've never been in a place with people that felt so comfortable and allowed me to feel so comfortable. And the music was incredible. I when I hear it from newcomers is when it really resonates. Like, yeah, that was a profound experience for that person. They're going to be changed for the rest of their life. They're going to, probably change thinking about like how they want to position their year, that now they want to make sure that they have these weekends off, that they're, taking their PTO at like certain times so that they can like that's what always has hit me about these festivals is how hard people that know what's up work to get to them and have it be a good experience.
And
such a blessing as a musician.
And I know there are attendees that in January when they're setting up their vacation time and PTO time, that's a block, and their bosses.
That's it.
That's the block. Yeah. They go to that. So,
and it's worth it. You're not taking a gamble. Like you're not like, oh, I hope that I'm gonna, travel to this big, huge, again, I don't have a lot of frame of references anymore for like, I'm not gonna go see, the Rolling Stones at a festival. That's not a good example, but yeah, you can get let down waiting in a long line or going to some place that is just like marketed to be the biggest, best experiences you've ever had in your life. Whereas like really the reality is like go to the tried and true places that have been doing it for over 30 years that are community oriented, there's a reason why those things have worked for so long. So what year is it of Heron?
This is the 33rd Great Blue Heron Music Festival. It's actually the 35th year because there were 2 years during the pandemic when we did the little mini things all summer.
Right.
Basically 35 years of doing this. And
32 revolutions.
Right. When you talk to Julie, there's a whole story behind how this all came about. Because remember, we're talking about private land, a family farm that has been developed, that is still a working farm, still cows, chickens, birds, vegetables, but also has the permanent infrastructure in place for this music festival and a campground, So, well, we are coming up on the end of things, and I'm going to put you on the spot, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Because of course, this is going to go post-production. So what do you think? What giant Panda Guerilla dub squad tune should I do the lead in to this interview with to introduce people to you?
I love the song Live and Travel. It's a song that was written by Dylan Savage in the band. It's got all the instrumentation that I feel is very inviting and like reminds me of like pulling down that road into Blue Heron.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're getting into and like why you came there and everything is very uplifting. And then I love the way that the song, I mean, it's a great beginning to the song because there's a great organ lead in played by Tony Galicchio, but the way that the song ends is kind of trails off in some delay and kind of like you've just finished the day, you're in your tent or you're like lying down looking at the beautiful stars and just drifting off. I feel like it represents a full first day at the Heron very well.
Yep. No light pollution at our place. You can see the full sky.
Not at all. Oh my gosh. It's so amazing, man. I can't wait. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there all 3 days. I'm really excited. Again, so many of our friends are there with so many of our musician friends and also like, non-musician friends are going to be there. I feel like it's really going to be the weekend of the summer that comes together. Also, good way of spending the 4th of July.
That's right. And you know as well as I do, you tell your kids, you see me go by, hey, if you go grab Kip. If you
got a problem, grab Kip. Yeah, I'll tell him, I'll introduce you to him.
Right. You need help, grab him. Now, What song do you want me to play after this podcast to get people fired up about making it to your set during the Great Blue Heron?
Okay. Get people fired up about our set at the Great Blue Heron. Um, oof, it is a being on the spot kind of question. Um, Man, I don't know because I like the unexpected things that happen during our sets. That's like my favorite thing about it. But on that same record, there's a great song called Signs. And I feel like that comes right after Live and Travel, maybe. So I think of these songs together. So I feel like it's a good bookend, for the
Okay.
conversation.
All right. Signs.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It'll get people fired up because,
Thanks, man.
I appreciate the time you've taken today, James, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you. And like I
I
said,
appreciate you, man. I love what you do. I mean, I'm so grateful to be a part of the festival, and thank you for your grace with my 15 minutes of being late. It's been a crazy day.
life
Um,
happens.